So strategically, this is basically a game about controlling airfields. That's an airfield there. That blue thing's a harbour. And because all warfare is basically about logistics, these are the important things in the game: controlling airfields and harbours. And the reason being is ships can get sunk and they're expensive to replace. Aircraft are cheap to replace, and airfields cannot be sunk. So it's a game about controlling airfields. From both sides' point of view, you also need to be able to fly aircraft out to the airfield, so you might need a chain of airfields to get there. Because if you look at that 2 on the far right, that's their aircraft's range, and you can double that range if you're flying between airfields. These planes are now stuck here. They can't get back to Japan. They would have come through this here, but the US have taken it. And so the Americans, from their islands over here, they need to secure a chain of islands, a chain of airfields that they can leapfrog their aircraft over. Why do they need their aircraft? Well, this has got an attacker strength of 10, a defense of 10, and a range of 2. It's an aircraft carrier. This fairly cheap inconsequential unit is better, basically. It's got 20 attack, defense of 10, and a range of 2. And aircraft are far easier to replace, and so you want to be using aircraft in as many battles as possible launched from land bases, and you want to use your fleet for mobility. If you're dependent on just using your fleet, you're going to get in trouble. So as a Japanese player, this marker here is just to remind me of something, I set up this eventual defensive situation. I've got an airfield here, and a big stacking fleet here. And the idea is if I get attacked, these aircraft can respond, but the US, they can't bring in any aircraft because they don't control any airfields quite near enough. Although they do now control one here, so that might change, not too distant future. So the tactical level and strategic level, you're really looking at how can I control the right airfields, how can I get to them. Also, the Japanese is a card-driven game, and cards are an abstract way of basically working out your supply. The more cards you have, the more supply you have for conducting operations. The Japanese card draw is partly determined by how many supply hexes they hold. There are 2 ways for the US to win. They can either conquer Japan, which is hard as nails, mostly because each Japanese hex, even if it's occupied, counts as having a military unit in it, which is about as strong as this. So you're going to have to slog right through it, and also there's plenty of aircraft around there. Or the US can knock the Japanese out of all but one of these resource hexes, the ones with the yellow line around them, and then bomb Japan, I think 4 turns running? 4 card plays running. If it does that in a single turn, it wins. The idea being that the nuke has been dropped. I think they might have to play a specific card or use specific bombers for that. As yet, it's the start of turn 9. The first of the long-range bombers, which can carry a nuke, is about to come in. B-29s. The Japanese win either if they can force the US political will track, and the US political will is up here, right the way down, and they basically do that by forcing countries to surrender. So when the Philippines surrendered, this token came out, and that knocked down 1, and when Malaya surrendered, that knocked down 1. If they knocked out Australia, India, China, and I think the Dutch islands as a whole, then they would knock it down a few more. And there's also a few cards that can drive it up or down. So those are the victory conditions. Let's have a brief look at the cards. I haven't drawn cards yet for this turn. Here's a sample card. It's a Japanese card. It's a bit more complicated than most other games, but essentially all cards have got what's called an operational value, an OC value, which is 3 points on this card. You can either spend it just for its points, or you can spend it for its event. Most card-driven games are like that. There are some slight differences in how it works, though, beyond that. But in short, brief terms, you're going to spend those 3 points, add them to one of your HQs. You'll pick a HQ. If it was an American card, I might pick this HQ here. And I can activate any units within 25 hexes of this HQ, and I get to add 3. So that's 3 plus 3 is 6. I can add 6 units, and I could move them all, and then I could declare 1 battle if I'm playing it for the operations cost. If it's actually the event is actually an offensive operation, I can declare more than 1 battle. You then resolve the battles, and afterwards units will do post-battle movement, and stacks will fall over like that. And, So that's a summary of how the game is played.